kind of stuck right now, but I think moving forward, I think we need to start finding new markets.
Tonight, uncertainty for a Mi'kmaq community in northern Quebec as they too are feeling the impact of the United States tariff threat against Canada. The Northwest Company has now been hit with another lawsuit over its product pricing.
There's 17 dance groups throughout the Lower Mainland.
And celebrating the Nisga'a New Year on the West Coast. Good evening, I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. U.S. President Donald Trump's 25% tariffs against Canada will also have an impact on the economies of First Nations, including Nisga'a, a Mi'kmaq community in northern Quebec. As APTN Savannah Craig reports, not only is Nisga'a facing uncertainty, but the community says it's been left out of conversations with the Quebec and federal government to address these tariffs.
American President Donald Trump has finally delivered on his threats.
25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico.
He says he's punishing both countries, but these tariffs have hit First Nations as well.
The impacts it has right now is the uncertainty because the majority of the seafood that we harvest is sold, eventually transformed, processed, and then sold to the U.S. markets.
Denny Isaac is the Associate Director of Natural Resources for the Nisga'a Mi'kmaq government. He says Nisga'a exports between 80 to 90% of their snow crab to the United States. Isaac says its economy is going to be heavily impacted.
Snow crab depends on the season and the price and the stock, can bring in upwards to, could be $5 to $10 million annually. So quite important to the community because these revenues are outside of any type of government programming that comes from Indigenous Services Canada, and these are usually used to support community projects that ISC wouldn't support.
With uncertainty of how long these tariffs will be in place, it's possible the community may need to look for new sources of revenue.
We're kind of stuck right now, but I think moving forward, I think we need to start finding new markets and become a little more independent.
Isaac says neither the Quebec or the Canadian governments have reached out to offer ways to work together on how to respond to Trump's tariffs.
Few changes in the agenda for today.
The Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador says it's also been left out of these discussions.
I think the relationship between Canada and US is changing. And this is going to have an impact on our First Nation, that's for sure, and obviously on our land. So that's why we need to be there at the table.
The AFN-QL's newly elected regional chief, Francis Verreau-Paul, says First Nations need to be included in decision-making.
More than ever, we need to be united on different fronts.
In a press conference held in Montreal, APTN News asked Federal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault why the AFN, QL, and Nisga'a aren't part of any tariff talks.
Things are going very rapidly, but I'm confident that the federal government will reach out in the near future to the various nations and national Indigenous organizations.
While there are concerns about the long-term impacts of these tariffs, Isaac says he welcomes building cross-border relationships with Indigenous communities.
We don't have borders when the Mi'kmaq have, under the Jay Treaty, we can freely cross the border, and we have, dual citizenship between U.S. and Canada. And so we're hoping that we can, find new partners and hopefully maybe it'll create new markets with our Indigenous brothers and sisters in the United States and their homelands and their territories.
Until then, Nisga'a is waiting to see how much of an impact Trump's tariffs will have on its economy. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
A groundbreaking, years-in-the-making event is taking place in the Grassy Narrows First Nation today. Indigenous Services Minister Patty Haidu is in the Northern Ontario community northeast of Kenora as the long-awaited construction of a Mercury care home gets underway. An agreement for a health centre to deal with health issues caused by mercury contamination from the paper mill in Dryden was signed back in 2020. The $82 million Mercury Care Home and Wellness Center is a, quote, specialized facility dedicated to addressing the community's unique health needs associated with mercury exposure due to pollutants released into the English Wabigoon River system. The federal government is also announcing $68.9 million for a community trust fund to operate the facility. The Home and Wellness Center will provide holistic care and treatment, assisted living supports, rehabilitation, and traditional healing and cultural activities. APTN News is at the groundbreaking ceremony and will have more for you in tomorrow's newscast. Now to Manitoba, where the Northwest Company has been hit with a second lawsuit within the span of less than 1 month over its product pricing. Through their stores known as Northmart and Northern, the retail giant is the country's leading grocery and home goods provider to residents in northern communities. APTN's Sav Jonza brings us this update.
On February 21st, 2 Manitobans from Northern First Nations filed a proposed class action suit against the Northwest Company, or NWC, for alleged negligence, deceit, and breach of contract in the pricing of their subsidized products. According to the suit, the grocery chain receives approximately $65 million in subsidies from the federal Nutrition North Canada program in order to make products more affordable for northern residents. Groceries can be 2 to 3 times higher in the north than in southern cities due to high costs in shipping. The suit alleges NWC is not passing along the full amount of the subsidies on to its customers through product pricing as it is contracted to by the program. NWC has approximately 129 stores across northern Canada and is the only grocery store for approximately 30 predominantly Indigenous communities. A different lawsuit was filed for similar reasons on February 5th. NWC has yet to file a defense for either lawsuit. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The File Hills First Nations Police Service has arrested and charged the chief of the Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation in southern Saskatchewan in an ongoing financial crimes investigation. The announcement was made late this afternoon. According to police, 37-year-old Scott Ashapi was charged with fraud, theft, money laundering, and breach of trust. The File Hills Police says Ashapi is scheduled to appear in Indian Head Provincial Court on Thursday. In a social media post by Chief Ashapi, he said the charges are related to a few disgruntled counselors that have been trying to charge him for the 4th time. He said, quote, "I'll show you how to deal with it in the business world." APTN News will continue to follow this story. A feasibility report has recently been published in favor of protecting the Seal River watershed, a large 50,000 square kilometer space in northern Manitoba. The report includes development of an Indigenous protected and conserved area led by 4 First Nations, the Seisi, Dene, Northlands Denisolan, Barren Lands, and Opinapiwin Cree Nation. Known as one of the largest intact watersheds left in the world, the study also covered the economic impact of tourism, public support, and the potential of a new national or provincial park. The next steps include negotiations among rights holders, engagement with stakeholders, and the public. The survey involved a total of 30,000 responses. A man has died in a Manitoba First Nation following a dog attack last month. Manitoba RCMP say a 56-year-old man was attacked by 5 dogs outside a home on February 21st in Kisi-Kuwinin, Ojibwe Nation, located 110 kilometers northwest of Brandon. When officers arrived on scene, they found the man lying motionless and face down in the snow while the dogs were still attacking him. EMS could not reach him because the dogs were aggressive, so they tried to distract them with an air horn and siren. An RCMP member then shot and killed 2 of the dogs. The other 3 dogs ran away. The man, whose name has not been released, was rushed to hospital in Brandon and then Winnipeg. However, he later died in a Winnipeg hotel with his family on February 23rd. The 2 dogs put down are being examined. The investigation continues. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations did not have the youth chiefs at their winter assembly in Prince Albert last month. Now, as APTN video journalist Rachel May reports, from mental health to accessibility, the youth chiefs are preparing to drive change and ensure their voices are heard.
We were empowered and we want to use our voices and, advocate for our youth, especially to address occurring and ongoing problems that the youth in Saskatchewan have been facing.
The FSIN has 4 elected youth chiefs who represent young First Nations people in Saskatchewan, focusing on giving youth a voice. Even though they were not at the Winter Assembly, the youth chiefs say they are still focused on creating change to ensure youth have every opportunity to succeed. Tejana Buffalo is the Two-Spirit youth chief and says one of their main focuses is addressing the mental health challenges youth face in the province. They say raising awareness about bullying, the impact of drugs and alcohol, and intergenerational trauma is challenging but necessary.
It's difficult. It's a difficult process, but you gotta tough through it. It's just resiliency. As it's bad, but in our blood, we're all resilient.
Female youth chief Samaya Cody says providing funding to help youth stay connected to their communities while living in urban settings is essential.
And I think just focusing a lot more on our youth, especially the youth from our urban communities, because they're very much in the dark, right? They're not living on community, don't have access to community events or youth events or anything like that.
Disability Youth Chief Serenity Gamble says she has seen firsthand how people with disabilities are excluded from various opportunities.
My siblings that are disabled couldn't join the winter games or summer games or anything because there was nothing there for them. And they also can't work because no one really hires them.
She hopes for more inclusion in everything from sports to daily activities and aims to be a voice for change in the community. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
When we come back, we'll take you to a youth trades conference after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Indigenous students from across Ontario gathered in Sault Ste. Marie this week in order to catch a glimpse of what a career in the skilled trades looks like. Hosted by Skills Ontario, the first annual Skilled Trade and Tech Summit gave students from grades 7 to 12 a chance to interact with trade professionals and participate in some hands-on demonstrations. APTN's Mike McDonald reports.
Everything from construction to robotics, welding, and cosmetology. Students participating at a trade summit aimed at Indigenous youth got the chance to experience it all. Organized by the First Nations, Métis and Inuit Initiatives branch of Skills Ontario, the summit set out to help address a labor and demographic gap.
There's a skilled trade shortage, so we need skilled trade workers, and Indigenous youth are the fastest growing population in Canada. So it just makes sense to have Indigenous youth kind of look at these careers, think about these careers, the benefits and the rewards of these careers, and then possibly pursue them in the future.
The North Shore Tribal Council sponsored the event. The organization's CEO says he's noticed a lack of interest in the trades among Indigenous students.
I watched my own children grow up, and a lot of their friends wind up taking social services in school because everyone else is doing it. But that's not for everyone. Social services, psychology, very important careers, but not everyone can do that.
Sault College's Indigenous student recruiter says a lack of math and English skills has proven to be a barrier for some Indigenous students wanting to enter the trades, and the college offers a program which provides those students with the means of upgrading those skills.
The Bidawban program does have those areas where they can upgrade their math skills and English skills to be able to be successful when you go into our trades program that require many of those math components, and many of the courses that they're going to be going into in the trades related will be relevant to what math components that they need to be successful in it.
Organizers of this year's Trade and Tech Summit say around 1,200 students participated and that discussions about next year's event are already underway. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you, Mike. The First Nations School Board in Yukon is celebrating a milestone. Educators at a community school under the board's jurisdiction recently offered a course with a local focus to high school students. Our APTN Whitehorse reporter Sarah Connors tells us why learning locally matters.
These high school students at St. Elias Community School in Hanks Junction are the first to be enrolled in the school's new Food Sovereignty 12 course. Seen here on a field trip at the Trondaquichin Farm in Dawson City, students learn things like farming in northern regions and the cost and accessibility of produce. The course is the first to be locally developed by a school under the territory's First Nations School Board.
So it's been really enriching for everybody.
One of the teachers who helped develop the course says the idea came from students' interest in a greenhouse at the school. He says the course, which entailed outdoor learning and on-the-land activities, resonated with students.
As we were on the trips, you could see how they can loosen up and let themselves enjoy the fact of being there.
It's really, really important that our children see themselves reflected in their learning.
St. Elias is located on the traditional territory of the Champagne and Ajax First Nations. It's one of 11 schools under the territory's First Nations School Board. The board's director says it supports localized curriculum that reflects a First Nations community's unique perspective.
When our children see themselves reflected in their learning, their attendance is stronger. They are more excited to come to school.
The course ran from the end of August until the second week of January. The school board hopes to see more schools offering similar localized courses in the future. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Fire season began in Alberta on March 1st, and with higher than normal snowfall, it began with 7 contained wildfires across the province compared to over 50 active fires a year ago. On Tuesday, the Alberta Forestry and Parks Minister announced increased funding for wildfire prevention, including construction of fire guards in several communities across the province. The province has increased funding for its Fire Smart program designed for owners to protect their homes and property. It's hoped that these efforts will help prevent another massive destruction like last year in the town site of Jasper that destroyed a third of the popular tourist destination.
Our government is building on our commitment to prepare for, prevent, and mitigate the impacts of catastrophic wildfires. This year, we are allocating a new historic high of $160 million in base funding for wildfire personnel, equipment, training, and contracts for things like aircraft and night vision-equipped helicopters. Alberta is home to some of the best firefighting personnel in the world, and our teams are well-trained, well-equipped, and ready to respond to any wildfire incidents.
Photo of the day and weather is up next, plus Tina House will take us to a recent Nisga'a celebration. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Not many days left to ice fish in Manitoba, but James Moore is making the most of it. Here he is near Saugeen First Nation with another beauty of a fish. Send us those photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east, St. John's 1, Charlottetown 10 and rain. Anujuak -18, Kuujjuaq -18. Saguenay 8, Quebec City -5. Ottawa 3, Peterborough 0. Sudbury -2, Thunder Bay 0. The Paw -8, Norway House -12. Brandon -3, Gimli -5. Partly cloudy in Regina at -2, Saskatoon 0. Stony Rapids -11, Meadow Lake +3. Sunny in Peace River at 3, Fort McMurray 0. Calgary 7, Lethbridge rain and 6. Sunny in Tofino as well at 9, Vancouver 9. Sand Spit 9, Smithers 6. Beaver Creek 4, Mayo 0. -7 in Fort Simpson, Wati -15. Fort McPherson minus 14, Colville Lake minus 19. Minus 22 in Whale Cove, Chesterfield minus 21. In Iqaluit minus 21, Agulit minus 20. Halbier is known as the Nisga'a New Year. It's a time for celebration showcasing the strong culture and pride of the Nisga'a people and other First Nations from around the West Coast. APTN's Tina House was there this past weekend in Vancouver, where the event took place.
Thank you. We're here at the Nisga'a New Year, otherwise known as Hobier, and joining me today is Tony Robinson, the CEO of the Nisga'a Tamix Vancouver Society. Tony, nice to see you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What does this New Year mean for your people, Hobier?
Well, we're celebrating the Ulakin, and as we heard earlier, the MC announced, the moon's facing a certain way. It's abundance of our food in the upcoming seasons.
That's beautiful, and what a crowd here this evening. Now this is opening night. How many people are you expecting here this evening?
6,000, possibly 6,000 each day.
Incredible, and obviously the Nisga'a are going to be doing the grand entry shortly, but who else is here in terms of dance groups from around the West Coast?
There's 17 dance groups throughout the Lower Mainland, Vancouver Island, and we also have 2 dance groups in the Northwest as well.
That's amazing. We've got a trade forum over there, we've got all kinds of vendors. What else can we expect to happen over the next couple of days?
The vendor market. I'm glad you mentioned the vendor market. There's about 59 vendors, and 50% of them are Nisga'a entrepreneurs, and it's been increasing each year for the vendor market. And they do well for the 2 days. Today and tonight and tomorrow, you'll see like our theme, Reclaiming Our Spirit. It's just all the dance groups showing how they reconcile in their way, in their culture. So it's a great atmosphere.
Absolutely, and to see the culture alive and well and presented in such a beautiful ceremonies that we're about to witness, and seeing the little ones dancing, that's my favorite.
Yeah, correct, and the dance groups are getting larger each year. I've been here, this is my 4th Hobier Tamix edition. The main Hobier, as you know, is up in the Nisga'a lands, which happened February 21st, 2nd. This is Nisga'a Tamix edition down Lower Mainland. And it's for Nisga's like myself who can't afford to travel home, just to celebrate our Nisga'a New Year with other nations as well.
Excellent. Certainly a wonderful occasion to celebrate. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you in studio.
Such a beautiful celebration. And that's your evening newscast for this Wednesday. We're back with your daytime newscast tomorrow with more stories. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.